Ivan Temikov here, and today I'm joined with Andy Audate. Did I pronounce that correctly? Is it Audate?
You pronounced it 100% correctly. Audate, Andy Audate.
Awesome. Well, Andy, hey, thanks so much, man. First of all, I'm really excited to be jamming with you, both on audio and video, because that's something I don't do too often. It's typically for the podcast, it's mostly audio. But let's go ahead and start, and tell us who you are. What do you do? And the fact that me and you are chatting, give us some intro and background.
Well, I'm a 22-year-old motivational speaker. I was raised in Pawtucket, Rhode Island, which is an impoverished area in the smallest state of the country. And from the age of 19 to now, I've been an entrepreneur, and I've been in the entrepreneur space heavily. I started off running one cell phone store at 19 years old, and I grew to 4 cell phone stores by the age of 21, and I had 14 employees. And at 21, I had an epiphany where I knew that I wasn't fulfilling my purpose, and I had to go out west to California to start living my dream and my purpose of being a motivational speaker. I moved from Rhode Island to California across the country and became a motivational speaker, working with the likes of Les Brown, Eric Stoller, Omar Periu, and much more.
Very cool. Dude, you're so young, man. I mean, this is amazing. I'm already getting ecstatic about this conversation. So first of all, what I think is important to mention here is that we met through a mutual acquaintance, literally. And I think in the span of less than an hour, we hopped on this podcast to jam. I mean,
right.
Talk about some serious synergy. So here's something I want to ask you. And this is something, you are a completely different generation. And the fact that you're 22 years old and you already have some success in the business world. Let me ask you the question. This is a pushing question, I think, for a lot of entrepreneurs. Is why did you start doing what you're doing right now? Like, what drove you to it?
Look, I think it's knowledge. It's knowledge and wisdom. And I think many of us have it and many of us don't. But the majority has the knowledge of there's something better for us. And I decided to go in that path of finding out what was better for me and honing in on it. Like living that dream, living that purpose. Because if I decided not to, I would have been average. And that's why I wrote a book called No More Average. Because it's overcoming averageness.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I went in and I said, you know what, there's something better for me. I need to go find out what that better is. And that's when I dove into entrepreneurship and personal development and get around top level people.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned something that I think I watched in one of Les Brown's videos, is just that you have to fall in a state of perpetual discomfort, I think, in order to be able to excel. So the fact that you're so young and you've already recognized this at such an early age, is exponentially significant a lot further than what most people do in life. Because the reality of things is that most people settle for status quo. And most people, don't try to change status quo, unless, of course, they're people like you and me, right? Because they're comfortable with that. That's their comfort zone, right? So, you got a full-time job, you get your paycheck, whatever, and that's great. One of the things that Grant Cardone talks about, someone that I respect, is that 76% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. Now, you and me don't want to be those people. And obviously, you don't want to be that person because you want more out of life. You feel like you have a much bigger purpose. And this is something that, this podcast focuses on, is human business, human centricity, and how people should really find their passion, right? Or chase that passion, figure out how do you end up doing what you love doing every day for the rest of your life, where it doesn't feel like you're doing work, right? And I think that's the ultimate goal, and a lot of people understand that, but not a lot of people, or a very small percentage of people, are actually willing to chase that, right? To fulfill that goal. So let me ask you this, what motivates and inspires you? You got 14 employees, right? You're 22 years old, hardcore entrepreneur. What motivates and inspires you?
Well, as you were speaking, I wanted to make a comment on how do you actually level up, right?
Yeah.
And it's about the people that you're around. Now, if you're around individuals who in their lifetime, the 80 years, the 90 years, the 60 years that they live, they put on a book, they write a book and work a 9-to-5 job. And what I've done in the last 22 years of my life, they do in their whole entire lifetime. Why have I excelled quicker than they have? It's because of the people that I look up to and the people that I'm around. Here's an example, right? Behind me, you'll see this cash on the wall, right? There's a few $100. There's hundreds of dollars on the wall right now.
Right.
And I have 2 roommates, and that's literally a bet between myself and my roommates, is reaching peak performance and what activities do we need to do to reach peak performance, okay? And one of the things that we discussed was reading a book. Now, I'm not a like the reader that every single day I'm in the book. That's not who I am. But I know I want to be that person. And my roommates likewise. So me and another roommate, I have 2 roommates, Patrick and Mo. And so myself and Mo were discussing about reading a book. And I said, I'll put $20 up that whoever doesn't read the book in one day, like whoever doesn't read a chapter in one day, they lose $20 that day. So if you don't read it, if you don't read a chapter in your book, you're gonna lose $20.
Right.
So like everyone, we're diving deep in our book. Now Patrick, he's an entrepreneur as well, but he works way more than I do. He works throughout the whole entire day outside in the field, cold calling and cold knocking on different businesses. So he's like, man, I don't wanna, burden myself to reading 30 pages a day or reading a chapter a day. Well, here's what happened. After Patrick is around Mo and I reading so much now and discussing the books that we read, Patrick started reading on his own.
Right.
Does that make sense? So it's about get around the right individuals that are excelling. And it's natural for you to excel. It's natural for you to keep going. Mm-hmm. Now, the other question that you had was what inspires me, dude. My parents, my family, the people who depend on me. In my book, No More Average, I speak about that often, about you have a responsibility for people, and your goals, when they are accomplished, other people are affected by it on a positive level. Yeah. So for example, if you had a goal, your goal is to have a podcast, and you're able to reach people that say your last guest wasn't able to reach. Your goal affected somebody because your last guest poured a message into that listener that you have.
Absolutely.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Well, no, it's exactly what I was looking for. And I just wanted to elaborate upon that further, what you just said. Motivation, inspiration. First of all, family is huge. I mean, that's a core. I think it's important to have that. One of the questions that I want to ask you in terms of motivation, inspiration, which I think is probably one of the first and foremost things that people would probably ask is, what does a 22-year-old entrepreneur, what kind of ramifications does a 22-year-old entrepreneur face? Like, you started out, because I think people want to know. I think the common misconception, where I'm going with this, is the common misconception is that in the entrepreneurship world is just that you're going to skyrocket overnight. You got the next best product. That's the misconception, the next best service, but that's not the reality of it. So let's talk about ramifications, challenges, sacrifices that you've had to make to get to where you are today.
Look, man, truth be told, it's funny when we see the people who aren't really in the entrepreneurship space but call themselves entrepreneurs, and they don't understand that it is not easy. It is not easy, and it is daunting on the mind, the body, the spirit, and relationships. It affects the relationships. It affects the people that you hang around with. It affects your family. It affects your spouse. It affects your children. Dude, if you're an entrepreneur, you're gonna go through some serious stuff in your life. If you're a businessman, you're gonna go through some serious stuff in your life because nothing is guaranteed to you. You're taking a risk. Entrepreneurship is defined as someone who takes great risk in order to get great reward. You're taking a risk. Exactly. So some of the sacrifices that I had to make was some of my relationships. Some of my relationships with future spouses. And I can't do it because I gotta go where my dreams are taking me. I can't be here with you. I gotta go somewhere else. And just partying so much. I don't party anymore. I'm just focused on,
Yeah. Hey,
focus, man. I'm just focused.
You got to be all in. You got to be all in. Absolutely. And I had to ask this question because I'm 37. You're 22 years old. This is my third entrepreneurial endeavor, and this is the first that's 100% all in. 2 years being into this, but because I think it's important in today's day and age, this digital landscape, this digital world that we live in, I think it has opened up so many opportunities for everyone, regardless of what generation it is. But what's important, the reason I asked you the question is this sacrifices, because you hit the nail on the head, is this, I think most people misconstrue in thinking that I'm an entrepreneur I'm going to build the next Apple or the next Microsoft, you know, or the next Tesla. No, you're not, you know. And what most people don't understand is the other thing you mentioned is great risks. Great risks. I mean,
well, I would never say that. No, you're not. I would never say that. I would never say that. No, you're not going to build the next this. I would more focus on you're going to be the next this. You're going to be the next version. You're going to be the next you. You know, like, because I work around Les and other speakers, I'm sometimes looked at like, are you the next Les Brown? No, I'm not the next Les Brown. Les Brown is Les Brown. I'm the next Andy Audate.
Right.
You know, it's a totally different mindset.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. I appreciate you clarifying that, because that is exactly what I think a lot of people think that they'll be able to accomplish if they replicate someone, that they're going to be just as good as them. No, you need to be the best version of you. You need to focus on you, on your own branding. You know what? I'm going to be honest with you. That's probably one of the mistakes that I've made earlier on, is trying to emulate others. You know, I mean, I respect guys like, you know, Gary Vaynerchuk, Grant Cardone, hearing about Les Brown more and more of, and then being introduced to you, Elena Cardone. I mean, marketing experts also, because that's the world that I'm surrounded in. But at the end of the day, especially in the marketing industry, I feel like a lot of people are attempting to emulate. They're attempting to execute the way others do, like public figures, celebrities, or people that are successful, thinking that, you know what, I'm going to be them one day. And like you said, just to bring it full circle, no, you're not. You're going to be the best version of you. I think that's important to recognize this, because I think a lot of people put it in their mind that if I do what someone else does, then I'm going to be as great as them. You might or might not. You're just going to be your own version. And that's important, you know,
right,
to recognize.
You know, 50 Cent, the rapper, there was a time where he made a comment like, somebody walked into his studio or wherever, his record label, and sounded just like Lil Wayne. and then 50 Cent was like, yo, you killing it, man. You doing it. Oh, wow, it sounds dope.
Yep.
And like, yo, will you sign me? The guy's like, will you sign me? And 50 Cent's like, no, man, you sound just like Lil Wayne. There's already a Lil Wayne.
Yep.
So we good. We ain't gonna sign you.
Yep.
There's a guy on my Facebook page, literally, who does exactly what Eric Thomas does. Eric Thomas, the motivational speaker. There's a guy on my Facebook page wears the hat like Eric Thomas, closes his eyes when he speaks like Eric Thomas, yells like Eric Thomas, does everything like Eric Thomas. And every time someone looks at him, like, dude, this is just like Eric Thomas. There's nothing new. So I want people to see, like, when they see Andy Audate, they see like, yo, this is just like Andy Audate. Like, this speaker, if someone is trying to emulate me, this sounds like Andy Audate, because Andy Audate is original. I don't want to sound like another speaker. I don't want to sound like, be like another entrepreneur. I am Andy Audate, so I'm not the next anybody. I am Andy Audate.
Well, you know what? This is going to sound really cliche, man, but I got to say it is, you strike me like the next version of Biggie Smalls. Honestly, you're literally.
You see, now I'm the next version. I'm the next Biggie Smalls, man. I'm the next everybody, dude. I'm just someone on the come up. That's it. I'm just someone on the come up. This is gonna say I'm like Biggie Smalls, man.
Real, dude, like, seriously, when we connected, which was less than an hour ago from the time we're shooting this, I checked out your website. I looked you up on social media, because that's what we do. And I'm looking at you, I'm like, holy shit, this is the next Biggie Smalls, man. He's just like waiting to burst out on the scene. And look, I have in my 20s, huge respect for hip hop. I mean, I think I've learned some really good lessons from, you know, guys like Tupac and Biggie Smalls and P. Diddy, you know, just because of the music also. And I still have true appreciation for that. But when I saw you first, that was one of my first impressions. I'm like, dude, this is Biggie Smalls, man. He's like a virgin just busting out, you know? And so I'm glad that we got to jam. Really excited. Really appreciate this raw conversation. Let's talk more about entrepreneurship. So, like, in terms of forecasting, so obviously entrepreneurship is so unpredictable, right? There's really no guarantees, there's no certainties there. Every day when you wake up, what are some of the things that you look at in terms of forecasting? Like, you know that, okay, I need to make my next move, right? But what's that next move going to be? And how it's going to be competitive, how it's going to be aggressive, whether it's with your business or what you're doing with your brand. I mean, what's your line of thinking on that?
Dude, So the way that I think when I wake up, as far as, you know, the next move, if we're going that route, is first and foremost, I understand that it's a risk. Mm-hmm. I understand that you have to understand it's a risk. It's not this. When I started, there were months I wasn't paid. You know, it's a risk. You know, so understand that it's a risk and you could fail, but just keep on going. And I understand, like, I just got to keep on going. There's no retreat. I'm willing to burn all of my ships. There's no retreat. So I just keep moving forward. And I think the scariest thing for me personally is understanding that major leaps is scarier.
Yeah.
And I like to take major leaps. So like right now in my world, I'm putting on a conference, 2.5-day conference, right? And what I got going on in this conference is, if I could show you right here, I wanted to do something a little bit different than I've seen before. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to create an experience. So what I got going on is this right here. That's gonna be part of my. Can you see that?
Yeah. Got it.
That's gonna be part of my conference, and I'm taking a major leap by making this investment to put 400 people in a hotel conference room, put this conference together, have a yacht included, and bring some top speakers. And I'm not gonna name any names, but bring some top level speakers to a 22-year-old event.
Right.
Now it's scary to expand that big, because my first event was only 100. Now I'm going to 400. It's scary to expand that big.
Yeah.
But it's about understanding that I'm taking a risk and I'm putting the bet on myself.
You know, I'm a firm believer that things happen for a reason. This is why I'm chatting with you. The fact you told me about this conference, I mean, this is a game changer, man, especially a 22-year-old putting on a conference of this magnitude. I mean, this is a mover and shaker type of initiative, you know, and that's exactly what it takes, I think, you know, that you have to literally step outside of your comfort zone and do stuff that people wouldn't expect you to do. The reason I asked you the question, I just want to go back a second. The reason I asked you forecasting and how you think every day when you get up is because I was kind of underlying hope and optimism. Because, you know, hope is the one thing that we have as an entrepreneur. You have to be optimistic, right? If you're not optimistic, if you don't love the process, you failed, right? You've lost.
I mean, that's really underlying right there. That's truly underlying, because hope, when I talk about it's taking a risk, like you're hoping that it succeeds. And optimism, like you have to be optimistic in order to take a risk on yourself and bet on yourself. Because if you are in a negative state of mind, you're gonna be like, dude, why? This is why I can't do it. Well, you need to change your mindset to this is why I can do it. And if it's right, this is why I can do it, then that's being optimistic.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Look, man, I'm an Eastern European. I moved to this country over 2 decades ago. Optimism was probably one of the hardest things. I mean, I lived in...
So you were 17? You were 17 when you moved here?
I was 14. So 23 years ago is when I moved to the U.S., had to learn a language, went through the cultural barrier of...
What language were you speaking before that?
Bulgarian, Slavic. Bulgarian is a Slavic language.
How do you say hello, how are you?
Zdravej, kak si?
Zdravej, kak si?
Can I say it right? There you go. That was awesome, you know, and so a little bit of history on that. A Slavic language is kind of a descendant of the Greek language. So it's very, very ancient, very, very old. There's a few extra letters in the alphabet in comparison to the English alphabet. But so the reason I'm bringing this up is because, look, man, I was brought up to play shit safe, honestly. That's how I was taught and raised. And ironically enough, is my father, who's been an entrepreneur for 14 years, you know, still doesn't recognize to this day that he's an entrepreneur because he's so old school. And the reason I asked you the question about forecasting is because I wanted to bring up the importance of risk. I mean, if you Google the definition of an entrepreneur, that's exactly what it says. And Google, right, it's a person that takes risks and invests in the companies with the intent and belief that's going to achieve profitability. Now, is there a business plan for that? No. Is there a marketing plan for that? No. Can you create some? Yes. But it's your own version of it, right? It's nobody else's. It's your own version of it. And the one thing that I really, really like about the things that you're sharing, honestly, and we're talking about entrepreneurship here, is that it's so raw, so uncut, so unpredictable. Because I think that with someone your age, there's this misconception that, well, shouldn't a 22-year-old have some kind of a degree or some kind of seasoned experience to be successful in entrepreneurship? No, right? There's nothing that out there in the books that says that a 22-year-old shouldn't be capable of running a business, right? And the unfortunate part is that we live in somewhat of a mediocre world where people think that way, right? So that's why I'm so ecstatic about like what you're doing with
we live in a different time where in 2017 you can go on YouTube and watch some top-level entrepreneurs speak, where you can listen to their thoughts, you can see how they live at home. So unfortunately, back in 1950, right, you didn't have that luxury. In 1920, you didn't have that luxury to go and watch somebody on the computer from your home when you're 16 years old and all you're doing is paying $40 for internet to watch them on YouTube.
Yep.
So because I had the luxury to go on YouTube and see Grant Cardone, see Les Brown, people now I've met and have relationships with, but at the time when I was 17, people I've never met and they have a relationship, I can look into their lives and say, that's what I want. So when I listen to them, I'll pick up on little bits of information, and part of that information is like, you don't need college. You don't need school. And here's why. And once their teaching started making sense to me, I dropped out of college. I went to college for 2 semesters. And I was looking at my teacher. I went to school for business management, right? I'm looking at my business teacher, and he's teaching me like the basics, like starting a corporation, double taxation and right, pass-through taxes and stuff like that. And I'm looking at him and I'm like, my boss, because I was working at Metro PCS. Right. My boss was a Black entrepreneur and at the time he had 10 stores. Now he's well over 100. But I was like, my boss, I want to be like my boss. My boss went to college for culinary and he sells cell phones.
Right.
He goes to school to learn how to cook food, and now he's selling phones. So he didn't need college to do what he does now.
Right.
You know what, man? I'm out of here. I dropped out.
You know what, I can totally relate to that because I only went to school for 2 years, to be honest. And what was taught, keep in mind is
so you got an associate's degree?
So I have an associate's. That's about it. But look, man, is this where this has taken me? The reason I resonate this is just that it's given me an opportunity to teach 4 years of a continued ed course at a university, to build a course and contribute to a program that was just being developed. Look, I didn't have a bachelor's. I didn't have a master's degree. I had people who had master's degree that were taking my course because they were irrelevant. We know what has happened historically, right? In businesses, companies like Blockbuster, like Radio Shack. Blockbuster went under because I thought that, who's going to rent DVDs? Netflix, and they had the opportunity to buy Netflix for $25 million, and they didn't. So that's a huge important.
Look, they're scared, man. Scared money make no money.
Right.
They're scared, man. A deal should have been put out. If they wanted to like not support the competition, then they should have bought it out and handled it in a way of making Netflix smaller than what it is, and then they would eventually see that it was wrong. But look, last night I was at Redbox. I'm looking at the Redbox. Now I was at 7-Eleven, and to the left was a Redbox. I'm looking at the Redbox, and I'm saying to myself, that's about to go under, man. You got Netflix, you have YouTube. Somebody came into my house, they were setting something up on my TV, right? I have a smart Sony TV over here, mm-hmm. and they're playing YouTube, and it looks like perfect TV. I don't have cable, but they're playing YouTube because of the smart TV, and it looks like perfect TV. You can watch TV shows, all the whole 9 yards as if you had TV. Redbox is going under, man.
You bring up a really interesting point. So you're familiar with YouTube TV, right? Which YouTube, I'm in St. Louis, Missouri, and YouTube TV just became available. Now, YouTube is going to crush cable. And over the last 2 decades, especially, cable companies, media companies have locked all these other networks into contracts in hope to keep them locked because the digital disruption, like YouTube TV, you can pay $40 a month right now and get 40 channels on demand with unlimited DVR for $40 a month. So much that YouTube TV sponsored a portion of the World Series if you were watching. It was all over. So what you're talking about that I'm a huge advocate of is disruption, innovation, always trying to find new ways. And I think that that's what this digital world has done. He has opened up opportunities for people like you, young people who get technology, who are innovative, who are polarizing, who are risky, who are hungry, who are thirsty, and they want to forge their own version of themselves in society, and why shouldn't you? Why couldn't you? I mean, the technology is there, right? The entry of the barrier of entry, I should say, is very, very low. I mean, you have very, very low costs, right? Because, I mean, you said you can go on YouTube and reach industry experts. You can start a YouTube channel. You can start a social account. I mean, there's little to no upfront cost, right? To start a business. All you gotta have is some time, patience, maybe a little bit of money, and definitely luck. And I think there's opportunity for anybody, right? I mean, you're 22 years old, you got 14 employees, and who knows what's going to happen tomorrow. I mean, you might embark on this great idea that's going to surpass Apple and become the next best product or the next biggest company to have the biggest growth, overnight. I mean, who knows? But that's the beauty of it. And I think that companies like Blockbuster, companies like Radio Shack, I mean, we're seeing what the retail industry, I mean, Macy's, I just heard that Target is closing 12 stores after Christmas because they can't compete with companies like Amazon. I mean, that is ludicrous, man. Just goes to show that you are not competing aggressively. And people like you are, because you're taking a much more tactical approach and being polarizing and risky and optimistic. And that's what it takes, I think, in modern business, honestly.
You're 100% right, man. You got to be tactical. You got to be strategic. And you just got to go for it. And if you're not constantly evolving, what I've learned, because I study these businesses and I'm studying the action that they've taken and how some fail and how some succeed. I'm understanding that if you're constantly not trying to evolve, you're done for now. You're done for. It's no longer a maintenance game where you're like, okay, you know what? I'm good. Now every day you have to be thinking about, as a CEO, if you're running a corporation, you have to be thinking about how can I evolve and go to the next level right now. It's not a matter of if the CEO of T-Mobile is saying, okay, let's maintain and let's keep sales the way that they are, it will go under.
Yep.
Constantly evolution, constant evolution.
Well, you were talking about, I'm drawing a blank, T-Mobile CEO, who I'm a big fan of, because this guy literally
John,
yeah. Right? John. I almost drew a blank there. Is that
watch this, right? Who's the CEO of Sprint?
Don't know.
Above Verizon?
Don't know.
Okay. How about Metro PCS?
Don't know.
No. What's the other one? AT&T?
I don't know, and I'm an AT&T customer.
Oh my goodness gracious! This is why T-Mobile is gonna go to a whole nother level, man.
Oh yeah.
This is look. You don't know the CEO, and you're not the only one. I don't know the CEO of those companies. I own Metro PCS stores. I don't know the CEO of Metro PCS.
Yep.
I know the vice president, Tom, but I don't know the CEO. Look, man, that's why T-Mobile is gonna take over right now. Is because they understand the concept and they're evolutionizing the industry by creating a relationship between the person who runs the company and the consumer.
Absolutely. Well, you did know this, is that there were a couple of impending mergers between AT&T and T-Mobile, but they never happened because
They can't.
Right. I think T-Mobile has always been so innovative. And what I love about John, what I was going to mention earlier, is this guy is just accessible. This is the CEO of a major company that's accessible on Twitter. This guy is freaking on Periscope at 7 o'clock in the morning on his run, and there's thousands of people that are tuned in, and every single one is saying, John, I freaking love you, man. I love what you're doing. I love that you have this sense of transparency and accessibility. I mean, CEO of AT&T, no, is probably bogged down in some freaking office and sitting on his cushioned 6-figure salary.
Look, I'm gonna put you on game right now. Look, first and foremost, I was in the cell phone industry, where I owned Metro PCS and Simple Mobile locations. Every single maybe 3 years, there would be talk about a merger between AT&T and T-Mobile. Now, I don't know what the strategy is behind it, but the FCC would not allow that because that would make them too big. that would make that one company too big.
Well, it's about market share and monopoly.
Right. You can't do that. You can't do that.
Right.
You can't. It would end up becoming a monopoly. It would end up becoming a monopoly because now they can decrease the MRC, which is the monthly reoccurring charge for the customer. They can decrease that and then therefore dominate over the competition and become truly a monopoly. So the FCC wouldn't allow that because it will just be one company you can go to, and after that they'll raise their rates. So you can't do that. Second of all, look, in this day and age, if there's no connection between the company and the consumer, you're done for. Social media has taken that over 100%, and it has allowed people like CEOs like John to be able to connect directly to the consumer. So there are customers today in the marketplace that only have T-Mobile because they see John doing a slow cooker Sunday. They feel connected. Oh, I have T-Mobile. Why? Because I know the CEO who runs the company. I feel like I can message him. I know his wife. I know his kids. But I don't know. I don't have no connection between AT&T. I have no relation.
Funny you said that. We're talking about the cell phone industry. So there's a picture of Forbes cover from 10 years ago. It's got a Nokia phone on it. And of course, Nokia, no longer, right? But it just goes to show that how quickly it can become irrelevant. And relevance is a huge part of modern business. Now, one thing that you brought up, to have access to the consumer, or because social has given voice to the consumer, it has given accessibility to brands. It has given, as a matter of fact, brands are at the mercy of consumers, literally, period. One consumer goes out on social media and goes off into a freaking rant and vents about a bad experience. That looks bad. That could literally cost hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue. And companies don't understand that. Look, because I'm a DirecTV subscriber and I got freaking sold into it. And honestly, every time I have to seek support, which I despise, and I go out on Twitter, you know what I hear? Crickets, literally. That's just an indication of, well, we know the history of DirecTV. It's been sold multiple times and, they've tried to revamp. The point I'm trying to make is just that brands are at the mercy of the consumer. The reason why I thought that with my startup, what I'm doing right now, emotional engagement and experiences, in 2 years, this was something that was said by Jay Baer recently, is going to be one of the 2 top decisions that consumers are going to be making when they engage with a product or service. They want to be engaged. They want to be communicated. They want an experience. They want to get a taste. They want to get a teaser. You know what? Is when you look at what John's doing with Timo, is he's doing that through connectivity. He's doing that through communication, all of that. And all he has to do is just go live on Twitter for a little bit. And he's not just doing it. I don't think John is doing it. He has to be natural. That's what I appreciate about the entrepreneur, is that it's not emulated. It is not staged. Because that's what a lot of companies do, is they try to stage a front just so they can come across as a lot more direct, expressive, attention to detail focused with consumers. And I think that the brands that genuinely mean that, are the ones that are going to have longevity in the marketplace. That's why you were talking about
commercials. You have commercials, man, where you have a white backdrop and it's professional. You have professional cameras and you have the whole 9 yards when it comes to advertisement. Then you have John like this. Hey, what's up, Mike? Hey, what's up, people? And then he's talking to the people, man. And it's like, I'm over here in my house. Actually, I travel a lot. So right now, but every Sunday I do a slow cooker Sunday. So I'm actually right now in my hotel doing this. Watch, check this out. This is what I do. And then boom, boom, boom. And they're like, whoa, I have a relation to this person because this is an actual human being. You're not a glossy face with makeup all over it telling me to buy a phone. You're an actual human being. I'm gonna go with you. And if the other industries don't catch on, they're going under, bro. And it's not gonna go under because of market share. The FCC will just not allow it to happen. These other companies are gonna have to revamp, right? Yep. And another thing about the industry, the MRC is going completely under, bro. MRC is monthly recurring charge on the account. Mm-hmm. You have 4 lines for $100. This is why I had to get out, because I was small. You have 4 lines for $100, right? That means $25 per account, per cell phone. This is inside scoop into the business game.
Yep.
Into the cell phone game. If you have $25 per account, including taxes, That means you might be getting $18 per account. Plus you got to pay commission to the salesperson who sold it.
Yep.
So you're going down to like $15 per account on a monthly basis. Dude, the income that these companies are getting, it's hurting their pockets. It's hurting their pockets. They have to revamp. They have to do something new. It's hurting their pockets. And I was in the business, and there's some things I can't talk about, but at the end of the day, it's hurting their pockets, and you can tell from the customer's perspective by continually going down and going down and going down in price.
Yeah. Let's zero in on a couple other things I wanted to chat with you about. So what's your focus right now? Like, what are you passionate about? Like, I mean, you have a passion, obviously, or maybe several different passions, but what are you focusing on, like, right now? Like, what are you working on?
So right now, my focus is on growing the Andy Audate brand and getting the message out there of no more average. See, average is defined as mimicking the efforts and ideas of other people or living vicariously through them. So how do I get that message out? I need to be on many platforms and mediums to express that message. There's 7.8 billion people in the world. Average, it's time to overcome it. And it's about changing your friends, changing your environment, and going after your God-given dream. And once you start doing that, you'll live a life that's fulfilling. Now, when I was doing the cell phone business, I wasn't living the life out that I wasn't really fulfilled. I wasn't really happy with the wins. It would be a quick tease, and then it's like, man, I don't know what this feeling is. So if you're having that feeling of like, I'm not really fulfilled, it's because you're not actually going after your dreams. There's fear, there's opposition, there's doubt, there's anxiousness, there's the lack of taking risks, the lack of belief, whatever the case is, but you have to do it. And once you do those things that you want for your life, you'll start living life differently. And that's where my message is, to help people and encourage people to start doing those things. So that's what my focus is on, expanding my brand to give that message out in different platforms. And then my next venture right now is a conference to help people understand that message.
Yeah. You know, so speaking about the conference, so first of all, really excited about that is that, you know, first of all, I need to get your book. Because it's totally intriguing. I think it's absolutely along the same line of thinking. I really appreciate that. I think you dropped quite a few nuggets too, in terms of how people really need to change their perspective to live a more fulfilling life. The conference, you know, that's something. I mean, if I can help you in any way that I can help promote it, because I think this is a mover and shaker type of conference. I don't even know what are some of the guests, but just by seeing the photo and the ideas that you shared on the podcast and how I envision this thing really coming together, I mean, this is going to be a milestone, man. I mean, this is going to be something that's going to be one for the books. And I think that's the anchor. Literally, it's like building a house. That's the foundation. And from there, it just takes off as its own brand, right? Which I assume that's kind of what you're trying to do with the conference, right? Is eventually become like its own brand, right?
Right. 100%. As well, you know, as well as just a message, because once people start understanding, like, hey, follow your dreams, and I believe that's why I'm on earth for. When people understand the message of following your dreams, I believe the world's going to change completely, 100%. The world will change completely. If it's not me changing the world, it's me helping one person to follow their dream, and by them following their dream, that changes the world.
You know, something I wanted to mention too that really got me thinking here is that you made some really, really good points. Like what you just said specifically is just that I think everyone has a purpose, you know, that they were, you know, put on this earth for, that God put you here, you know, to impact the lives of others. But I also, one of the things that I've done, you know, because I've gone through opposites, you know, ends of the spectrum here. I mean, I've talked to a lot of people who are as passionate as you, which I truly, truly enjoy, you know, and they're literally driven, motivated. They want to impact the world. They want to change the world. They want to impact the lives of others. And then I've talked to people who are like a small version, but they try to present themselves like they're a really groundbreaking brand or an influencer. What I'm particularly referring to is the whole human business trend is huge. It's about to become even bigger. Like what you were just talking about is this, you know, believing in yourself and finding your true purpose and living a fulfilling life. There's a lot of people in the marketing industry that try to market it that way, the human business. which goes back to the saying that Gary Vee says, is that marketers try to find the next best thing and squeeze the crap out of it and then toss it in the trash can. And I think that's what marketers are trying to do with the whole human business and human marketing aspect, and that's why I feel so passionate about it, is because it's not a temporary thing. It's a permanent thing.
What is a permanent thing?
The human-to-human business, the way brands do business with customers, the way entrepreneurs should pursue building a business, the human-to-human approach. Does that make sense? Some of the things that you were talking about is no more being average, because like your book, which I think a lot of your book talks about, how people can find their passion, the true calling, right? And everyone has one, and then from there is, how do you take that and help other people find their calling, their purpose, have a sense of fulfillment? That's kind of the whole human business aspect I was talking about.
Yeah, I truly believe, as I'm thinking about employees, right? There are some people in my network that would say, Andy, not everyone can go after their dream because we need employees. Like, we need those 9-to-5 workers. And that's 100% true. I need to hire 9-to-5 workers, right? However, this is my belief. And it's that when everyone actually goes after their dream, not everyone's dream is to be an entrepreneur. It's the big talk right now. It's like many years ago, everyone wanted to be a rapper. It's like everyone's dream is not to be an entrepreneur. There are some people that their dream is just to literally help a great entrepreneur and be part of the mission, be part of the pack. Yeah. And by them being part of the pack, they're putting great ideas in the mission to continually involve the brand and the business. So it's not just about, everyone got to be their own boss. That's not the case. Everyone got to follow their dream, their calling. And some people, their calling is, my dream is to work in this hospital, but I don't believe I can be a doctor. And that's what they lack. That's what I don't believe I can be a doctor. We need doctors.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So I need employees. And the fact of the matter is, there's somebody in this world that their dream is to help propel a brand like mine and propel a message like mine, but they're scared. Yep. They're scared. They believe that they can only work at McDonald's when they can work for a company like mine and continually press forward.
Yep.
So it's actually about going to that next level.
Yep. Well, and I think kind of one of the underlying things too here is that it's better to have tried and failed than never tried at all. And most people don't even try, so I think that's kind of one of the things that your book also talks about, is how do we encourage and invigorate people, to follow their dreams and be the best version of themselves. Right.
Look, I'm scared. I'm scared. And this one, I'm scared of, I saw this. When I moved to California, I made it off a quick decision, similar to how we did this podcast. It's all quick decisions. Now, some people would not favor any quick decisions, and some people will. But I do think off a quick decision. I take time out of I stop thinking about time. And this is what I'm scared of, right? Of dying and knowing that I didn't do what my purpose. Dying and not giving my all. I'm really fearful of that. I listened to a song called 7 Years by Lucas Graham. Once I was 7 years old, my story was told. Now, I heard that song when I was 20 years old, right? I was 20 years old, laying down on my bed. And I was just frustrated because I just looked at my finances and in my business, and it was completely turning around. I had a great month, like a huge successful month, one of my best months, and then it just went down. In business, there's peaks and there's valleys, especially in retail. I didn't know that. So once I see going down, I'm like, whoa. I lay down and I put on Pandora, and this song plays. And in 4 minutes, the guy talks about a 7-year-old boy, and I connected because I remember being 7. And then after that, he talks about an 11-year boy. I connected because I remember being 11. Then he talked about when he was 20 years old. Then he went to 30 years old. Then he went to 60 years old. And then in 4 minutes, he talked about someone's life because he made a comment that his father only got 61 years to live. His father died at 61. Yep. And I'm like, whoa, 4 minutes, that's someone's entire life. I need to make major leaps, and I can't go calm. You can't dip your foot in the water. You got to plumb it in. You got to go in heavy. So when I talk about No More Average, where people can grab this book at nomoreaveragebooks.com, when I talk about No More Average, I'm talking about going hard on your dream. Like going to that next level, like you have to. Other people depend on you, Ivan.
Yep.
Other people depend on me. And the listener that's listening right now, people depend on you to go after your dream, because if you don't, you're affecting them.
Yeah, well, that's the generational contribution too, right? It's important that generations after generations, contribute, for the sustainability and longevity of the human race. There was a quote that I'm gonna try to see if I can quote it, because it was a really, really deep quote by Grant Cardone that he pushed out on Facebook. It goes something along the lines of this: is that life is grand, so why not do something exceptional rather than average? And that really hit me. And this was a couple of days ago, honestly. And I got to thinking that to your song, to what you were saying, is yeah, we're not gonna get any younger. We live one life. And I think one of Eminem's songs was One Shot, right? Sometimes all you got is one shot, and I remember that from Eminem. Also, the reason I mentioned earlier that I think that in some way I perceive you as the next version of Biggie Smalls is because what he did in his earlier career when he was starting out as an artist, very much an entrepreneur, struggling, from one gig to another, broke, to where, what? One day that can light that's right behind me here goes off, right? The light just goes off. It just happens in that instant. But, you got to do the work. You got to do the work. You got to be risky. You got to take some risky decisions. Like what you just shared a little bit ago is just that, a lot of the things like moving to California was really a very quick decision, right? Well, in most cases, you have to make a quick decision in entrepreneurship. You have to, because guess what? That 1 second, 2 seconds, 2 minutes, 5 minutes is already too late. So again, Eminem, you got one shot, right? So, which, kind of goes back to the movie, which I kind of found some irony in 8 Mile too, kind of the story behind Eminem. And, it's very kind of ironic to entrepreneurship, I think, in a way, is that you struggle, but the challenge is, how long do you struggle for? Most entrepreneurs, 90% of entrepreneurs fail because of, failure, depression, anxiety, uncertainty, cash flow, and I'm kind of like you in a way, man. I'm scared shitless because guess what? I also have a mortgage. I also have a kid. I also have another kid on the way, which is a surprise. And when you got so much overhead, dude, shit's even more real. Literally. But that's even more of an opportunity to crush it, literally, because you have all the opportunity in the world. Literally, you do. You're unstoppable. And I think in today's day and age in society, like what you were talking about earlier, for the longest time, I used to surround myself with people who weren't optimistic, who weren't positive. They were naysayers. Constantly like, no, that's not going to work. Right. You can't do that. Says who? You're the last person to tell me whether I should do something or I shouldn't, So I think changing the perspective, the people you surround yourself with. You mentioned in the beginning too, surrounding yourself. You did that, right? Positive people that.
Not all the time though. Not from the jump. I learned that recently.
Yep. So I mean, this is real. This is really key. And with that being said, this.
So I can't give. Look, and I won't, because although I'm 22, I've had people ask me for advice, especially people who do have kids and who has a wife and who has a mortgage and who has, all these bills and so on and so forth. I can't, because it's like going to the casino. It's like going to the casino and saying, yo, put all your money down on a blackjack card. It's like, I can't do that for you. Look, in my life, I'm willing to take the risk. I'm willing to put the people in jeopardy so I can go up to the next level, so I can actually help them. Because right now, I'm not gonna be able to. Like for me to hold someone down just so we can be safe, I'd rather take the risk and go to that next level, because I'm putting the bet on myself. Now, if I'm betting on someone else, I can't. I'm not gonna bet on someone else to take care of me. I'm not gonna bet on someone else to take care of my family. I'll take the gamble. Does that make sense?
Yep. Absolutely. And this was powerhouse of a convo. I really enjoyed it, and I truly hope that we can continue the conversation, because I'm a type of individual that thrives on relationships. And you drop so many nuggets, especially coming from a 22-year-old. I mean, blew me away completely. And I know you have a very, very bright future ahead. I'm really excited to follow you and see how you evolve as an individual in your brand and what you do next. With that being said, though, before I bring this to closing, I want you to tell the listeners and the viewers, how can they connect with you online? What's the best way to connect with you?
On all social media networks, I am Andy Audate, ANDYAUDATE. My book, No More Average, you can pick it up at nomoreaveragebook.com. And the last thing I want to say is bandwidth. By any means, do whatever it takes. Bandwidth. By any means, do whatever it takes. You only have one life. If you look at what the world is, that's been here, that's this big for billions of years, and you're only at 80 years in the billion-year world, that's all you get. Make a move today. Make a move. Because there's people depending on you. On top of that, you don't even have much time here. So when you die, that debt is going to be wiped. When you die, those dreams, gone. Make a move while you're here.
You know what? I might have to caption the podcast with that, honestly, because that was deep. That was real deep. Andy, thank you so much, man.
Thank you so much, Ivan. Thank you, Ivan. I appreciate you having me on.
You're welcome.